Hi, everybody. We're very honored to have Ron Lemprecht, EVP of Business Development and Digital Distribution, also at NBC Universal. Thank you so much for being here. Moderated by Rick Howe, who is, of course, our famous ITV doctor and columnist.
You're not here to hear from me. You rarely are. You're here to hear from Ron Lambrecht, who's an EVP of all the really cool stuff. That's ought to be your title at NBC Universal. And I'm going to let Ron start off and just introduce himself a little bit, and then we will talk about why we're all here today.
Well, thanks for having me. It was a great setup, Laura. Thank you. It's NBCU day or morning. So actually, Laura mentioned the group that we're forming called Digital Enterprises. It's a central group that Steve Burke, our CEO, set up about 2 months ago. And what I'm charged with is any kind of corporate partnership, mostly with digital players like a Facebook or Google, YouTube, Snapchat, which is a deal I did earlier this year. I can talk about that more. It's basically trying to have a single entry point in, not exclusively into the company, obviously, but at the right level with these big partners on content creation and monetization, and also the day-to-day management of our investments in BuzzFeed and Vox fall to me and my group.
All right, so now NBC Universal has made a number of investments and partnerships through your group. Again, you've got the fun stuff. Why did you take those steps, and how do you expect that to affect NBC?
Yeah, so again, it was a great setup from Laura. I think in the past year, I've been here almost 17 years. It's a long time at NBC. There's been a very noticeable change, in my view, in the past 18 months around digital in general. And last year, the BuzzFeed and the Vox investments were what I thought were sort of the first examples, first big examples of us trying to figure out how to bet and resource against, quote, digital, which, we can talk about what that actually means, but the context of it, I think everyone kind of, can get that, what I mean by that. We don't have all the answers. I certainly don't have all the answers, but I think the point of what those investments were is to make certain bets in, especially in capabilities that we don't necessarily have or not expert in. So BuzzFeed, as an example, content creation for a mobile device. I'd like to think we're great at it, but we can learn a lot, as I think most players can, at least on the traditional side. Snapchat's another example of that, where these are as much investments in the case of BuzzFeed and Vox, but also they're investments in capabilities and an attempt to get close to players we think are either the best or one of the best in class at doing a particular type of function, whether it's content creation, or monetization. That's another one that I know Laura talked a lot about, but doing branded, integrated advertising sponsorships with digital players for a millennial audience. It's easier said than done, and these companies have shown that they're, in my view, experts at doing that type of activity. So it allows us to get a lot closer to the people and the resources that are best in class, and more than just rubbing off sort of through osmosis. There's real partner opportunities that go hand in hand with those investments, which I can talk about, particularly in the case of BuzzFeed and Vox.
Well, recognizing who our audience is, and the audience is growing, more people are coming in, are you still interested in doing more partnerships and investments?
Well, yes. NBCU, I think, Laura said it, we're open for business. I think I can give you a little bit of a framing for that, but I think what we're really good at is we've got this machine at NBCUniversal, and then obviously, there's a Comcast element as well, but at least from a content perspective, we've got a best-in-class ad sales capability. We've got incredible brands and IP, and we have scale, enormous scale. And I think what's really interesting is where you can truly marry some of that, maybe not all of it, but in a material way to produce something that would not have happened apart. That's more interesting, and that's what we're trying to do with a lot of these, whether they're investments or just partnerships. In the case of Snapchat, we're really trying to make that more when we're together, and I think we've shown that. It's hard to do because it's a big company, and it's there's a lot of a lot you have to work through, and then doing anything with a partner, no matter how friendly or easy it is to work together, it's just hard. It's hard to pull two different companies or groups of people together.
You have
and actually
different
produce.
DNA.
Yeah, we
different
do.
business
We do.
DNA than little guys. Okay. Now you mentioned Snapchat. And we're going to talk about that for a minute. You have a video. Would you like to
do.
run that video?
Yeah,
now?
I'll tee it up. I'll say, so this was just an example about, to kind of tell you why I think we're really ready to go, more so than even in the past year and a half. We've organized the company and my group in particular to be able to be more nimble and make investments quickly and assemble the right people to create a content capability fairly quickly. And you'll see from this video, it's about a minute and a half. I'll give you some snippets, and then I'll talk more in detail. Let's give you a flavor for what we've done.
Hey, you. Yeah, you.
Ready for the season, baby? It's about to be on.
This is the rundown.
Yes, Riri. Yes.
How dope is that?
It's Polly Pocket-sized pop culture.
It's a gift. It's a real gift.
Get it.
This is big.
Now the power is in your hands. Here is your winning artist.
Hey! This one's called Rappin' Snappin' Turtle Clappin'. It's the rapper, snap, 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 and rapper, turtle clapping.
I think we did it.
Yeah, we did it.
What's up? It's the weekend here at SNL. It's gonna be special. See you guys there.
About to rehearse the monologue. Bye.
Live from New York. It's Saturday night.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Swipe, swipe, swipe.
So that
Cool.
Thank you. So let me just explain that because it may not be clear why this is so innovative. There's a format on Snapchat called a show format, which is different from what most people probably know on Snapchat, which is more of these editions. They're magazine-like. They're everything on. If you go there right now, almost everything on there except we have our show up there today. It's a weekly called The Rundown. Check it out. It goes live early Thursdays and it's gone Saturday morning. Everything other than that is more of an addition, and that's all. There's great stuff on there, and we've done an edition around the Olympics, which I can talk about in Rio. But the format that we're really focused on with them is this show format. It's creating from scratch and originally produced specifically for Snapchat in a vertical format videos, and we were actually the first to do this with The Voice. So that was the first show example on Snapchat. We did that. It was a 5-week run, and the winners then were brought into the broadcast airing of The Voice. We have another example, which is The Rundown, which is a weekly. Again, today, check it out. We've done one Fallon to date. We hope to do more. We're working. We did an SNL live story, which is a little bit different. That's more produced by Snapchat with us. Last night we did Hairspray Live, which is still up there. You can check it out. So all of this did not exist even 6 months ago, and it's one example of trying to truly bring the resources of the company against. And we can't do 50 of these, but where there's a real scale opportunity to leverage NBCUniversal on these types of platforms, we're ready to go. And Snapchat's a really good example of what we've done.
Well, let's ask the audience a question. Who here actually uses Snapchat? All right. Now, who here actually understands Snapchat? Smaller number. From a dyed-in-the-wool television perspective, and I'm very much dyed-in-the-wool on that, the idea, the ephemeral nature of Snapchat, that it's up and then it's gone, seems completely counterintuitive. Somehow or other, that's valuable to Snapchat users, I guess. Why is that valuable to you?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. It's a demo and a platform that is hard to reach by almost everyone, and so being in front of that audience we think is very important. Whether it's important right now, I think it is, but certainly long term, that audience it's significant. And in terms of attaching to our IP, we think it's really important that that we're relevant to them. There's obviously relevance only gets you too far. Obviously, we're a for-profit company, so there's a monetization opportunity that that Laura and her team take full advantage of. So there isn't a meaningful ad sales opportunity. It's still small, but with the platform and the usage, and it's not just Snapchat. You look at all these other platforms that everyone knows about. The numbers are gigantic. The real challenge is how do you have the monetization catch up with that? So it's relevance to an important demo, and it's the monetization, which ultimately is really all that matters, at least for us, because it's this content. This snippet I just showed you. It's not cheap to do. These are, there are teams of people. This is not repurposing.
This is real television.
This is it's real television in quotes, right? I mean, what is television? But this, everything you saw in here is being done by people and teams that did not exist in a year ago. These are from scratch script development, back and forth, notes, and it takes weeks. It seems like it would be pretty quick to do something like this, but it's remarkable how.
It's not a
long
kid
it
on the
takes.
corner with a camera, huh?
Not in our case. No, this is it's real effort.
So you mentioned the rundown, which premieres on Thursdays, and you said it stays on until Saturday.
Saturday morning, yeah.
Okay.
48 hours.
Help me understand, because it almost sounds like your model there is old-scale broadcast television. The show premieres on a Monday night. If you don't watch it on Monday night, you miss the opportunity, you miss the water cooler conversation. Is that actually what Snapchat is bringing to you? Is that sense of immediacy, I got to watch it now because I'm not going to have another chance?
I think it's better to ask them. Be honest with you. I mean, this is their platform. This is the fundamental premise of one of the fundamental premise of the platform is that there's an ephemerality to it, if that's even a word.
Yeah.
I actually don't really use it, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not in the demo, and I use it because I have to use it, and I use it with my nieces and my kids, but it's like talking for them, right? If you look at how people use this platform, forget the video piece, just the core functionality, it's a conversation. It's a different conversation than I'm used to, but they're talking in quotes. This is what, and so talking, unless you record it for a later date, like talking is ephemeral. It goes away. Like this is gone in a half hour, right? It's the ether of the conversation. That is the premise behind everything else on the platform. But again, it's not our platform. This is created by them. This is their vision. It's their religion on what they think and they know their users, obviously. They know them really well. So they're getting something right.
So for the Snapchat users in the room, somebody sends you a picture of something cool, a picture of them, a picture of their kid, their dog, something they just bought. How many of you actually do the capture of that snap to look at it later? You don't. Interesting.
What? No need to.
Well, no need to if you see it right then, but if you want to go back and look at it later, you can. But in your case, there's no way to record these programs.
No, they're gone, yeah.
Do they have an afterlife anywhere?
Not yet. I mean, we haven't done anything else. We could, but we haven't yet.
So you have content that you've produced at some expense, and it basically shows once.
It does. It does. Now,
Well, I mean, it stays on the platform for a while, but while it's on, that's it.
That's it. Now, each content type is a little bit different. If everyone look at the rundown, you'll see a month from now it's not going to be relevant or as relevant because it's
newsy, gossipy.
Right. That Fallon show we did, it's about 3.5 minutes. I mean, there's nothing that timely about it, so you could imagine, potentially reusing that at some point in the future. Even the SNL live story probably has a little bit of a shelf life.
Well, but that live story relates to a specific week's episode of SNL.
It does.
So if you bring that episode, here you go, if you bring that episode back in reruns, do you bring back the Snap program associated? You haven't gotten that far yet.
I don't know. I mean, we just started.
Kind of almost makes sense, right? I mean,
maybe I don't know. But literally, we're sort of making this up together. And the first example was, barely 3 months ago. So there's still a lot more to be learned.
Okay, so now you take it. Let's take SNL. It's a good example, and you showed some pieces of it and kind of behind the scenes. And I personally would love to be in the studio and just kind of taking notes and gossip and seeing all the guys and everything and how they build that show. That's a fascinating. That's an American icon of television, for God's sakes. Tell us a little bit. Now you talked about you have this new staff, new employees, new people writing, scripting, all the rest of it. Talk a little bit about just the production. How you do that? How do you reinvent SNL for Snapchat?
Sure. Well, I'll give you 3 examples because they're a little bit different. So let me start the Olympics because that's an interesting one. That was not this show format. It was an edition format, and we actually had BuzzFeed help us produce that edition. So they're a partner of ours. Obviously, we have an investment in them. We have a very close operating relationship with them, and when we decided with Snapchat we were going to do a Rio Olympics edition for 20 days or so, we quickly realized, it might actually be better to have someone like a BuzzFeed help us produce that. So they had a team of people with us down in Rio, commingled with our core production team at the Olympics, and we sort of jointly produced that. We leaned heavily on BuzzFeed to do that. So that was one example on the edition side. On the live story side, that's really more Snapchat. They have their own team doing that. Now they embed with us and we give them access, but that's really more like their new quote news team. Whenever they do a lot, even last night Hairspray, it was more them in partnership with us. Then you have the show example where, in the case of the Rundown, we've got a core group of people in LA on the lot as part of the E team that do nothing but that show. Now, in the very beginning, it probably took a little bit longer to go back and forth to get the concept perfected, and now it's a lot easier. It's a little bit more of a machine for them because we're about 12 weeks in now, so we've learned a lot. But that team is out. They're out in the Black Tower in Studio City, right next to the lot, and they've got a dedicated group of people that are doing throughout the day, almost exclusively working on this show. There is some sharing because it's part of the E-News team, but it's for the most part. And there's back and forth with the Snapchat production people and kind of refining and even the imagery. If you look at it today, there's a lot of science makes it seem a little bit too precise, but the what do you see on that screen? It really matters, and you can imagine what people tend to click on more than others. You just take a look at there. I'll leave it to you to conclude, but certain things are more enticing to click on if you look at what. So even that, there's science around that, and we've actually swapped out the art, the image, within a 12-hour period or 24-hour period to try and test whether or not we can get a better uptick.
So a show that stays on for a day and a half, do you actually then, is refresh the right word? Do you add a new screenshot to the front of that to try to give it a little bit pop after 6 hours?
The screenshot, and we can also, it's hard to do it because it's so real time, but we can edit potentially the actual video itself in that period of time. It's hard to do because it's such a short timeline, but we haven't done that yet. But we definitely have swapped out the art, the image. Okay, so then that brings you to numbers and metrics. Then we would assume that some poor schmuck is sitting running data on how many hits you got for the SNL program in the first 6 hours, and then if you tweaked the image a little bit, and then how many you got with that. Can you give us any sense about what kind of eyeballs this is bringing to you, what kind of contribution this is bringing to NBCUniversal? What are you looking for? There you go. That's the question. What are you looking for this to do for you? We're looking for, in the case of the Rundown, and this is really the same answer for even Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. I think what matters, obviously you want an audience, but I think what is even more important than that is can you hold the audience, can you grow it, right? So having something on every week or having something even on every day, the size of the audience is important, but also the stickiness of the audience, the engagement, how long do they stay in each session? You want to lengthen that. You want to have them keep coming back. You want to have them, there's a recurring element.
So that would argue then that Snapchat, with the exception of the Hairspray, and I know I'm done, but I'm going to take an extra minute because Tim swiped one from me. Hairspray was a one-time event, but Hairspray is going to come back. You're going to keep that on the schedule. It's going to come back a few more times over the month, and so you can get a little bit more build in there.
That's the hope. Look, like I said, there's definitely engagement, and there's a promotional and marketing element that is almost impossible to prove, but hopefully it adds value. And then of course there's a commercial opportunity. But again, just back to what I said earlier, this is about a capability and learning how to do this and learning how to program for particular platforms, and that for now there's a huge amount of return just in learning that. Now that, you can't do that. Like I said, I can't half joking about the economic model has to follow there, and there has to be something meaningful that you can point to. But that's why I think we're uniquely positioned right now to really try and organize to learn how to be the best at programming.
And you can't read about somebody else doing it because it has to be a fit into your culture, your content, your product, your company, and how you learn to make it work best for you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Everybody, we are done. Please give Ron a hand. On to the next one. I only went a minute and a half over by my schedule. Thank you all very much.